Welcome to the deep dive. You've brought us some really interesting material this time. It's all focused on something I think we all grapple with,
Hmm.
keeping that motivation going when you're chasing a goal.
Yeah.
We've all had that initial burst of excitement, right?
Hmm.
Starting something new, a fitness plan, a side project, maybe a big career change.
Absolutely. That first rush.
And then, well, life happens, challenges pop up, and suddenly that momentum just stalls.
It's such a universal thing, isn't it? That
Mhm.
initial spark is vital. But like the sources you shared highlight, keeping the flame alive takes more than just sheer willpower.
Yeah.
Things get in the way, obstacles appear, and what felt exciting can suddenly feel like, well, like a chore.
Exactly. So today, our goal isn't just to nod along about that feeling. We want to dig into why holding on to those first motivations is so critical.
Right.
And maybe more importantly, pull out some genuinely useful strategies from these sources. Things you, listening, can actually use to stay focused and, get stuff done.
Okay, let's start there. Let's unpack that core idea first. Why is remembering your initial why so powerful? What did the sources really say about that?
Well, the material really hammered home how those initial reasons are often tied deep into our emotions. Passion, maybe a sense of duty, or just a big dream.
Ah, the emotional core.
Yeah, and it's that connection, that feeling that builds resilience. It helps you push through when things get tough.
That's such a crucial point. Like, think about someone training for a charity bike ride.
Oh?
Their why isn't just about getting fit, right?
Hmm.
It's probably tied to supporting a cause they really care about.
Hmm.
That emotional link becomes this powerful internal engine. It pushes them through the tough training sessions, even when they're exhausted or sore. The source is called this sort of values-driven motivation. Apparently, it's particularly strong.
It's like finding a deeper energy source. But we all know how distracting daily life can be.
Oh, definitely.
You've got deadlines, unexpected problems cropping up, maybe that little voice of self-doubt starts whispering.
Yeah, the inner critic.
And suddenly, that clear reason you started feels kind of fuzzy, miles away even. You might even start thinking, is this really worth it?
And that's exactly the moment where, actively reconnecting with your why becomes so important. The sources suggest it's like hitting a mental reset.
A reset button? I like that.
Yeah, it helps you cut through all that daily noise and the self-doubt.
Mhm.
It reminds you why this goal mattered in the first place. It's about re-anchoring yourself.
Okay, so we get the why behind the why. That makes sense. Now, let's get practical. How do we actually do that? What steps did the sources suggest to keep that motivation alive and kicking?
Right.
The first strategy that jumped out was intentionally looking back at your goals and intentions.
Yes, and this isn't just a passing thought. It's about making it a deliberate practice.
Okay.
The sources really stressed the value of dedicated reflection. Like, what were those specific moments, those initial feelings that made you start this? What were you really hoping to achieve or feel?
Mm-hmm.
And writing these down, that came up again and again as a really powerful first step.
Yeah, there's something about writing it down, isn't there? Makes it feel more concrete.
Definitely.
And the idea of keeping those written reminders visible, maybe in a journal you see often, or on a vision board, that seems like a smart way to keep it top of mind.
Well, the material you shared had this great example, Lisa. She started her own bakery,
Okay.
driven by a real love for baking and sharing her creations. But then, the day-to-day business stuff.
Admin, the finances, yeah.
Exactly. It started to just overshadow that initial joy.
Right, the passion gets a bit lost in the weeds. So what did she do? How did she reconnect?
She made a vision board. But the sources were clear. It wasn't just random nice pictures.
Hmm.
It was carefully put together. A real reflection of her why. Pictures of happy customers, quotes about creativity, notes about her original dreams for the business.
Ah, okay.
And by looking at this board regularly, she was like visually and emotionally plugging back into those core reasons.
That's a great example. It shows how a visual tool isn't just wishful thinking, it's a direct line back to why you started.
That's exactly.
And you can see how that applies to almost anything, learning a new skill for your career. Keep something visual nearby that represents that future you want. Could be really powerful.
Absolutely. And building on that idea of internal imagery, that brings us to the second strategy, visualization.
Okay, visualization. We hear that word a lot. What was the specific angle in your sources?
Well, the material talked about process visualization as well as outcome visualization.
Process visualization, what's that?
So it's not just picturing the finish line, the successful end result. It's also about mentally walking through the steps to get there
Ah,
and
okay.
picturing yourself handling potential roadblocks along the way. This kind of mental rehearsal can really boost motivation and actually reduce anxiety about the challenges.
So it's not just imagining, say, winning the race, but also visualizing yourself actually getting up early for training on a cold morning or pushing through a tough patch.
Precisely. The sources suggested that by mentally simulating the process, you build mental toughness. You even start developing backup plans in your head. It makes the whole journey feel less daunting, more doable.
That makes a lot of sense, mentally mapping it out. Okay, so our third strategy shifts focus a bit more externally. It's about surrounding yourself with support.
Yeah, the sources were really clear on this one. Motivation isn't just an inside job.
Hmm.
Engaging with people who genuinely support your goals, who offer encouragement, that can be a huge external boost.
Hmm.
Just sharing what you're going through creates accountability, and it gives you emotional support when you hit those inevitable rough patches.
Like having your own cheer squad, but one that also gets the struggles. And the material also mentioned the benefit of different perspectives within that support network, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
different people offer different things. Some might give practical advice, others just a listening ear or emotional backup.
Right.
And sometimes someone else can just remind you of your why when you've kind of lost sight of it yourself.
I can definitely vouch for this one. When I was trying to build a regular writing habit, connecting with other writers, even just online, made such a difference. Ah.
Just knowing others face similar blocks, celebrated their small successes, it kept me accountable, kept me going. That shared understanding was key. That feeling of community, that shared experience, it can be incredibly powerful. It fights that sense of isolation that often kills motivation.
So, for everyone listening, think about your own support system. Who really champions what you're trying to do? Are there groups or communities you could connect with?
Good questions to ask.
Okay, moving on to strategy number 4. This one feels really vital for those longer term goals, celebrating the small wins.
Yes, the sources really emphasize this. When you're staring at a huge, distant goal,
Uh-huh.
it's so easy to forget how far you've actually come. Actively noticing and celebrating the smaller steps provides crucial positive feedback. It keeps the momentum going.
It's like breaking a massive mountain climb into smaller, manageable hikes and taking a moment to appreciate the view after each one.
Exactly. The material gave examples like, acknowledging when you finish a major chapter of a book or hitting a savings milestone.
Or even just recognizing consistent effort over a few weeks.
Right. And the sources even touched on the psychology. It triggers dopamine, apparently.
Ah, the brain's reward system.
Yeah. It reinforces the positive behavior and makes you want to keep going. It's like a biological pat on the back.
So it's not necessarily about throwing a massive party every time, but just consciously acknowledging your progress and letting yourself feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking back to Lisa, the baker, celebrating positive customer reviews or nailing a new recipe, those small wins would reinforce her passion, wouldn't they? Remind her of the good stuff.
Exactly. It builds this positive cycle, makes the whole big goal feel less overwhelming, which kind of leads nicely into our fifth and final strategy,
Yeah.
adapting and adjusting your approach.
Ah, flexibility. This feels key because, like we said, things rarely go exactly to plan, do they?
Not often, no. The sources basically said that being too rigid can actually kill your motivation long term.
Right.
Being willing to rethink your methods, learn when things don't work, and change course. That's essential for staying on track without getting totally discouraged.
So it's about staying committed to the destination, but being flexible about the route you take to get there.
Perfectly put.
Mm.
The material you shared had an example of someone learning a language.
Yeah.
Their first method just wasn't clicking. So instead of quitting, they tried different techniques, found a tutor, changed their study times.
Yeah.
It was that willingness to adapt, to pivot, that ultimately got them there.
Exactly. It's seeing obstacles not as stop signs, but as detours. Maybe signals to learn something new or try a different way. It shows resilience.
Okay, so to pull all this together, your sources included a story about someone named Mark, right? He hit a major motivation slump.
Yeah, Mark's story really captures the challenge. He was training for his first Ironman triathlon.
Wow, okay, big goal.
Huge goal. And managing a demanding job at the same time.
So initially, super enthusiastic. But as the training got really intense and work didn't let up, he started feeling completely burnt out. His motivation just plummeted. He even started doubting if he could actually do it.
That sounds incredibly familiar, that feeling of being stretched way too thin.
Yep.
So how did Mark turn it around? What strategies did he use?
Well, first, he consciously went back to his why.
Okay.
Why did he want to do an Ironman in the first place? For him, it was about the personal challenge. Pushing his limits, rekindling that connection was step one.
Right. Revisiting the core reason.
Then he started using some of the other strategies. He broke his massive training plan into smaller chunks, celebrating milestones along the way.
The small wins.
Exactly. He also joined a local triathlon club, found his support network for advice and encouragement.
Got the community aspect.
Yep. And crucially, he learned to adapt. When work got crazy, he adjusted his training, sometimes prioritizing rest over pushing through. He became more flexible.
Adapting the approach.
Right. And by pulling all those levers, revisiting the why, small wins, support, adapting, he managed to overcome that slump. And yeah, he eventually crossed the finish line.
Mark's story really brings it home, doesn't it? These aren't just abstract ideas. They're actual tools you can use when the going gets tough on any big project.
Absolutely. Whether it's personal, professional, creative, whatever your goal is, remembering why you started and using these kinds of adaptable strategies, that can really be the difference maker.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap those 5 key strategies we dove into today. First, intentionally revisit your goals and why you set them.
Second, use visualization, not just the outcome, but the process too.
Third, build and lean on your support network. Don't go it alone.
Fourth, make sure to celebrate those small victories along the way.
And fifth, be prepared to adapt. Be flexible in your approach when things change or obstacles appear.
These are all practical techniques. They can bring back clarity, build that resilience, and hopefully, yeah, relight that motivational fire when you need it.
So for you listening right now, think about a goal you're working on, or maybe one you've put on the back burner. We'll leave you with this thought. Take just a moment later today to reconnect with that initial reason. Why did you start? And maybe pick just one of these strategies we talked about. How could you apply it, even in a small way, right now? Sometimes just understanding that original why, again, can unlock a surprising amount of fresh energy and focus. Thanks for diving deep with us.